A drink that is literally written in stone, the Martinez. I mean, what the f***? So the Martinez, all right then. Now it's supposedly the daddy, the one that the Manhattan or the Martini have come from. And whenever I used to teach my staff, I used to tell them that basically nothing is written in stone. Unfortunately, when it comes to Martinez, it is. Oh, we'll get to that story in a minute. But there are a lot of stories about this drink, okay? So we're going to go through it, and then I'm going to show you how I make one. But we're going to start with story number one, which is Jerry Thomas. Jerry Thomas is the guy who created the first ever cocktail book in 1862. Now, in his book, supposedly it says that in the 1887 edition, which by the way was a couple of years after he had died, that he'd created the Martinez. Actually, there was nothing even a mention of it in his obituary. So it's not Jerry Thomas. The other one that everybody goes on about is Julio Richelieu, as in like Cardinal Richelieu from the Musketeers, but it's actually Julio Richelieu. And supposedly in 1893 at his cafe in San Francisco, he'd created the Martinez. And the story goes that a guy came in with a bottle of Jesse Moore whiskey, a nugget of gold, and went, "Make me a drink." And the guy supposedly made a Martinez. However, that story is a little bit conflicting. One, 1893 is about 9 years after the first actual publication of the Martinez. Two, the gold rush was actually over for about 10 years by then in the San Francisco North American region. And also, but Jesse Moore whiskey was popular at the time. There's also absolutely no record whatsoever of a Julio Richelieu owning any of this cafe. And also, if you go to the town of Martinez, which, by the way, they're the ones that put it in stone, by the way. Somebody went there in the 1960s when there was a big event on in the town of Martinez, and this journalist couldn't find any records, none, zip, focus, nothing in public records of the Martinez. He couldn't find anybody who was actually making the Martinez, and anybody alive at the time, right, he was about 70 or 80, went to go and see them, and none of them even heard of the Martinez drink in the town of Martinez. But yet they still wrote it in stone. Really? Seriously. The other one is called the Judge Martin, or Judge Martinez, which in a wonderful About Clubs and Clubbing 1904 article in the New York Times. Yeah, Clubs and Clubbing 1904. Jesus Christ, what do you think? I would have thought of disco now. Anyway. Supposedly the drink was made for a judge. The most likely story is that, yes, he would have gone to a bar in the Tenderloin district, and a guy called Harry Johnson would have made the drink for him, a very famous German bartender in the 19th century. However, in his book, he doesn't talk about the Martinez, he talks about the Martine, and it's not quite the same drink. But the other two people that we're going to talk about in a minute that are very associated with the Martinez is one is O.H. Byron. Now, in his book in 1884, he actually wrote about the recipe of the Martinez, and he actually basically said it's very similar to a Manhattan, which is basically a gin version of a Manhattan. However, a little bit of a problem there. In his book, he has two versions of a Manhattan. He has a sweet version with Rosso vermouth, and he has a dry version with dry vermouth. So which one is it? Then there is the Tough Club, or the Tough Club. The Tough Club, or the Turf Club, was actually a very famous club in New York. And the bartender there allegedly was the guy that created the drink around the same time, around 1884. Unfortunately, in order to get any further with this, he actually died in a train crash. So we'll never know. Rather unfortunate, really. But here we are. The Martinez, and I've just been drinking some Old Tom gin. Now, a little thing about the Martinez. Now, a lot of people say it should be with Old Tom gin, or some people say it should be with dry gin. Now, that's a bit of bullshit, really. This drink really came around in the 1850s and the 1860s. Now, in the 1850s and the 1860s, the most popular gin at the time was actually Genever. Okay, right? And then later on, around the turn of the 20th century, so early 1900s, it would have been Old Tom gin, because that suddenly became the trend. okay? And then later on, it ends up being dry gin because that becomes the most popular, right? Now, in case you're wondering, this is a classic example of how bartenders haven't changed really that much. Nowadays, if a bartender gets a new product, they will put it in f***ing everything. Like literally, the sherry craze. What the f***? Almost put me off sherry for life when I was having it in every single drink. Same thing happened when I was in London about 15 years ago when Antica Formula came out, one of the oldest vermouths. That was being put in everything. So you imagine in the 1850s, vermouth suddenly comes onto the market, dry and Rosso, okay? And of course there's Genevieve is available. Well, they're gonna put that in a drink. And then this is how the Martinez was created, and it is a wonderful drink. And now we're gonna show you how I make one. And I do it with Genevieve, okay? So let me just have a little bit more Old Tom. This is rather lovely. So, here we go, the Martinez. We're gonna add 1.5 ounces of Genevieve, all right? I like a sweet version of mine. So, 1.5 ounces Rosso vermouth. Then a nice simple bar spoon of maraschino. All right, you can do Cointreau if you want, and you can do even Grand Marnier. And then dash of orange bitters. Okay, you can do Abbott's bitters, you can do Bogart's bitters, you can even just do plain Angostura bitters. It's up to you. All right. Add ice, and then stir. But I'm most likely going to go with O.H. Byron because he actually wrote it down, and I'm more likely going to go by him. But I think he honestly got it from a bartender who worked at the Tough Club. Okay, otherwise known as the Turf Club, in case you're wondering. Then get a nice orange twist. Chili glass. I've got Carrot Top to help me with this one. There we go. Then we get a nice little strainer. We strain it in. And there you go. Beautiful, wonderful Martinez. Oh my God, that is so good. Chin chin, off, get home safe. Thank you.